So I've been a custody sergeant for 9.5 months, coming up to a year now. Since having been in custody, I've been abused 4 times in that time that I've been in custody. It has happened before, as I was a response officer, but never so quite frequently as I've been in custody. The way it's made me feel is deflated, upset, targeted, because doing the job, we are sort of susceptible to being abused because of the uniform that we wear. And I used to always tell myself it's just the uniform that they're attacking. Whenever it was any other sort of abuse, or any sort of swear words they would hurl at me. But it's beyond that. Whenever it happens, it's the first thing they see is the colour of your skin. But I shouldn't have to be put in that situation every time somebody feels like they need to abuse me, verbally abuse me. It goes beyond that. They're attacking who I am. They're attacking the colour of my skin. So it's awful. It makes me feel deflated. It makes me feel disappointed. It's something that I've learned to get a bit of a tougher skin on, but I shouldn't have to. I used to say this to the younger officers I used to tutor, that I would rather be spat at than racially abused. The story that I have, it's happened I think a couple of months ago, and having been a new sergeant in custody, you kind of start to get your footing in a little bit, and you start to get a little bit more confident about who you're dealing with. And as you can imagine, the customers that we have come through the doors aren't so happy for being arrested. They're not happy with the arresting officers. Most of the time when they come to us, they've calmed themselves down a little bit, but this particular individual was intoxicated, had drugs or alcohol or both. And I think the first thing that he said through coming through the custody doors after I've, saw him, was he called me the effing N-word, and said, "I don't want to see that, I don't want to speak to that," in those words exactly. So naturally I was shocked by that. And most of the time I won't tolerate any of that behaviour. And I did say to the officers that he is going straight to cell and I can get the circumstances from you afterwards, but it quite shocked me that that was the first thing that he said, having looked at me. I then had to take a step back. It was good that the officers had realised immediately what he had said, and they further arrested him for a Section 4 public order, 4A public order. So, but yeah, I think that was the first incident that's happened to me in custody. And yeah, I was not used to being addressed like that immediately from the off. And as I said, the officers were quite good on making that immediate arrest and dealing with him there and then. It was also good that my colleague that was with me said, "Don't worry about that, I will go off and deal with him, because otherwise you're just going to keep putting yourself in the position where you're going to be constantly racially abused." But what was worse is I think that he kept shouting it from the cell. And I could hear him as I was stood at the desk, so he kept shouting it over and over again. So we had to shut the doors because I didn't want to hear it anymore. I think for the colleagues it's important for them to know that should they hear or see this happen out on the streets, I would like to see them act in the same way. Because at the end of the day, it's still an offence, it's still a racially aggravated crime. Whether it happens to your colleagues or whether it happens to a member of the public, they need to be, immediately on to make that arrest, to challenge that behaviour. Whether it happens inside next to you, with a colleague of yours, with a friend of yours. I think the good thing that day is that my colleagues were just as offended as I was by that behaviour and by that comment. And before I could even have reacted, and it's happened before, since, or afterwards, whereby the comments have been said, and I was too busy typing, too busy trying to figure out who that person was, or whatever it was that I was doing at the time, and the member of staff or the officer, "Oh, Sarge, I've already heard that, don't worry, they've been further arrested for it." So the good thing is that officers are quick to react to it, just as much as I would have been. So my advice is that if you see it or hear it, challenge it, and look to deal with that via the criminal justice system. Because we shouldn't have to be put in this position, being a officer of the police. Members of the public shouldn't have to be subjected to that. We shouldn't, just because we put on the uniform every day. So the good thing is that that is happening a lot more. Officers are quick to react to it, they're quick to challenge it, and they're quick to make that arrest. So I think that needs to continue. I think the importance of hate crime, and especially on a day like today, we're in 2023, and you would have, I mean, it still happens, sadly, and I think members of the public need to realise that nobody should be subjected to racial abuse, whether it is, 10 years ago, whether it is today. Sadly, it still happens. People do have that hatred for people of ethnic minority backgrounds, whatever that reason may be. It just shouldn't happen. We need to get to the forefront of that and to make people aware that it shouldn't happen, and us as Wiltshire Police, as any member of the police service, will not tolerate that behaviour. So the quicker it is dealt with, the quicker it is reported, then the quicker we can get that evidence, the quicker we can take that person to the Crown Prosecution Service for a decision to be made. So people shouldn't be afraid to report it, because we will deal with it as we would deal with it, whether it's a member of staff or if it's a member of the public. Nobody should be subjected to any such behaviour or comments like that.